It's the place you go when you finish your show. We're your two best friends. Our names are Max and Ben. We're self-proclaimed television experts. It's Reality Alert. We have a bit of emergency right now. We have a snake on the podcast. Oh my God. Who let a snake in here?
He's ready to strike at any moment.
Oh my God. No.
Evil serpent.
The most evil person to ever come on this podcast.
He exists, actually more evil than Lucifer, I hear, to exist on this earth.
Yeah.
He dared to go onto a competition show and he dared to play games. How dare he?
How dare you?
How dare he?
Trey from Battle Camp is here on Reality Alert.
Oh,
wow.
How's it going, y'all? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
What up?
Hello, Trey. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm winding down after a day of work, and I'm ready to dive in. I'm wearing my Cubs hat in honor of the papacy.
Right.
The new pope was just chosen today. We were talking about it before we went live, and I'm sort of honoring his Chicago roots.
Yes.
Yeah, we talk about religion before every podcast that we do. We normally do a group prayer. So
brilliant. Okay, great. I'm glad.
You say grace before every.
Yeah.
Although, is it controversial that this pope, he's from the south side of Chicago, and he
from the south side? I read he was from the suburbs.
I heard on the radio today.
Southern suburbs.
So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe south suburbs. I don't know.
Look, I choose the Cubs too. The White Sox. It's rough right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I've been to a Cubs game recently. They're selling tickets for like $50, a hot dog for $10. You can get into a White Sox game for like $5, and they'll give you a beer and a hot dog for free.
Oh,
like they're giving away the ability to go see a baseball game down in the south side.
See, I'm a Rockies fan, and we don't get that treatment, despite the fact that we're one of the worst teams in the history of the MLB right now.
Yeah,
everything is still expensive here because everybody still is going to games just because it's a great field. So,
right.
Incredibly obnoxious
too. It's beautiful out there. Yeah,
it's insane.
Well, do you know what isn't that expensive? Watching Battle Camp on Netflix or subscribing to the Reality Alert Patreon, $5 a month, but no hot dogs. Anyway, Trey, where was your mom on Battle Camp? Did she get the call and turn it down? Did she want to give you time to shine?
Yeah, I wish she was there. No, I think I think they weren't really looking for her ilk on this show in particular.
Ageism.
I think she can do it.
Yeah, ageism.
I think she could do it, but I can't imagine her going like toe to toe with the likes of like Chase and Kyle and what. Can you imagine her tug of war with Kyle?
Kind of.
How would she do in the ice baths?
She would crush that. Well,
okay.
Yeah, she has the same thing as me, where I have like the psychic ability to sort of turn off discomfort in order to pursue winning a competition. So she is infinitely more competitive.
Well, that was needed this season for you. You had a lot of discomfort this season.
Yeah. I kind of feel like the narrative on Squid Game was that your mom was like more athletic than you. I feel like that was the narrative that they pushed on us. I'm not saying that she was, but it was like, oh, my mom played D1 basketball, but I didn't. Like, I feel like that wasn't that the narrative that they were pushing? That's all that I remembered about like the main part of the relationship. So then I thought that it was cool on this that you got to show it off that you could really do stuff too. Because I thought that wasn't that the narrative that you felt like you were in your mom's shadow a little bit? Was that not the narrative? Did you not feel that way?
Yeah, it was sort of hinted that way. That's sort of the narrative I spun in casting quite a bit too, because my mom played D1 basketball. My dad was an Ivy League basketball player. My sisters were my younger sister's a D1 athlete, and my older sister, she was varsity in high school, but she didn't go on to college. She probably could have, I think, if she wanted to. So like I do consistently spin this sort of underdog narrative for myself.
Yes.
So I've run a marathon before. I was athletic in high school. I just didn't take to competitive sports the same way the rest of my family did.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you're like an underdog. I just felt like that was it. I thought that's what was fun, and then I saw you being super athletic on this, and I was like, wow, we really got sold like a bill of goods. I thought you were going to be getting like the whole shoe bomb edit and having snot on your nose, and then I was like, oh, okay.
Well, all that athleticism really comes into play when you're playing like Battleship and Red Light, Green Light, right?
Yeah.
What the hell was going on there? Yeah, I did it. I did it to myself. I don't think you shouldn't feel bad for thinking that I was unathletic in Squid Game because I sold myself that way.
Thank you. I was feeling really guilty. So you show up on Battle Camp, and here's another bill of goods that we were sold. This whole Lorenzo rivalry. We're getting really excited about it, and then nothing happens. So did you guys just like settle things off camera or something?
Yeah, it was on camera. They just chose not to put it in. I saw him step off the bus, and obviously that's like the worst news that I could possibly get is seeing Lorenzo. And I think it was like day 2 when we got in there. After breakfast, I was like, Lorenzo, you want to go to couples therapy real quick? And I pulled him aside. We walked over to one of those orange benches that was in camp, and we chatted it out. And I was like, hey, I actually really appreciate your ability to really just go for it on the show. I really loved you on Squid Game. I'm so sorry we did that to you. I would really like to forge a connection with you because I think that we have an opportunity here that not everybody in the camp has. We were on the same season of a show and in a really unique experience together, and we couldn't capitalize on this. And he accepted, and we were in a really tight alliance the entire time at Battle Camp. He's a major reason why I made it as far as I did.
Really? Even when you were feeling a little ostracized in the red cabin?
Oh yeah, he was cheering me on. He was one of my only like really vocal supporters. I would be upset, obviously. I'd go up to him and be like, man, I don't know, man. This is like getting the best of me. And he'd go, no, Trey, like your villain arc is so interesting and entertaining. You just need to keep leaning into it because if you take a back seat, like people are going to jump on you even more. So you need to like stay on top of it. He really was my biggest cheerleader in there.
Oh, interesting.
It's so funny to me that they see you as like this great villain though. Still, like, watching from home as an audience member, like that's not how it looks. It just looks like you're playing the game, and then they're like gaslighting you and like feeling like you're this evil person.
I think the big part that like makes me out to be a villain on the show is just a lot of people are not necessarily my cup of tea, but I wouldn't be friends with them in real life. Like the only thing that we really have in common is that we were on reality shows and now the same reality show together. So like, it's just watching a bunch of people who do have mutual interests gang up the guy that they all collectively like don't quite get along with. And that also made it really difficult to like strategize and stick my neck out there and what have you.
Yeah, that's what we talked about. We were like, it's not even that necessarily Trey did this. It's just that they don't vibe with him. So it's so easy to just be like, well, here's the guy that we don't like. So,
Chase wasn't even there for the incident that he kept harping on you for. Right. So it's like, you're just wondering like, what the heck's going on here, Yeah.
Have you stayed in touch with anyone from the cast?
Yeah, I played quite a bit of like online chess with Nick, and
that makes sense. Yeah.
And with and some with Lorenzo. I do keep in touch with Lorenzo a little bit. I talk to Shuby quite a bit. We call a lot. He's coming to Chicago, I think at the end of July or sometime. We hang. Yeah. And I keep in touch with QT as well. Everybody else I'm friendly with, but it's not like I'm calling up Chase for drinks when I'm in LA,
Yeah, that adds up. Yeah. Okay, so the first challenge happens, and you guys win this one. How are you feeling after this first win?
I like popped off. I yelled because I was so happy. The worst thing you could do on a reality competition show is be the first one out. And winning the first challenge is like, okay, I'm not going to be the first one out. It takes a huge load off. But also, like, it was kind of bad to win the first one because you didn't really know how good it was to win because we were still learning what the game was. Like, by the time you won that first challenge, we didn't know about the wheel. We didn't know about punishments. So we didn't really have any sort of, we were the architects of like how the game would shake out, kind of, because we were the cabin that was in a position of power. So like, we talked about what was fair, about putting people in punishments, and that sort of like that vibe sort of echoed throughout the show. We also were the architects of like what like voting would look like and how those conversations would go. So it was great to win, but also like you kind of have to set a standard at some point. And I think we messed up quite a bit in that first round as a cabin. Yeah.
How do you feel that you messed up?
I think I messed up because I was like trying to make alliances with people that the rest of my cabin didn't really vibe with or ended up being targets. So like I had a really good conversation with Avery, and Avery was someone I was excited to see come off the bus. And then my whole team decided that she was target number one on the Bears, which I didn't really agree with, not only because I aligned with her, but because like, okay, so she did a wall sit for a minute 10, you know, like that doesn't make her the strongest member on that team. There's other people that there's bigger fish to fry, especially, and we don't even have to go for the Bears. We can go for the Eagles. Like I was feeling like Tony was somebody that was foreboding for a really long time. And I also think I let other people make decisions that weren't really thought through all the way, that were really impulsive in my cabin. And I felt responsible for some of the decision making that I didn't necessarily have a say in. So I think that's where we messed up. We weren't really aligned, so to speak.
Were you wanting to work with Avery just because you knew she was more strategic and that was someone that you could, strategize with in the game and play on that sort of level?
Yeah, exactly. I knew her from the mole. So, I knew my play style. I knew like what I wanted to go into the game and show off. And I wanted to align with people that wouldn't morally aggrandize me for making a strategic move.
Oh, wrong person then.
Yeah, and it's a bit,
yeah, no kidding. That's ironic, isn't it?
It's a bit ironic in retrospect, but I think we just ended up on wrong sides of the camp. You know, I feel like if I did that and it was in Avery's name, she would be all for it. But I think we just ended up in a bad spot.
Well, you do end up voting for Avery that vote, correct?
Yeah, and that's part of my that was part of my when I said I think I made a mistake there. Mm-hmm. That first vote was a wash. I didn't want to vote for Lexi because it didn't make sense to me that I was voting out weak players on another team. I was like, are we losing our minds? Like, why are we helping the other team get stronger? So that contradicted my philosophy. I wanted to vote with a philosophy of making other teams weaker, not necessarily stronger. And the Avery I had told Avery, I was like, hey, so I think you're catching heat. I'm not gonna vote for you, but don't tell anybody that I'm the one that's throwing that I'm the one that's telling you you're getting votes tonight. And she said, thank you so much. And then she immediately went to, I think it was a group of, it was like Louis, Gabby, and a couple of the Eagles and a couple of the Bears. And she was like, hey, so I hear I'm getting votes. Can we maybe not vote for me? And then she goes, and somebody's like, where did you hear that you're getting votes? And then she goes, someone in the Wolves cabin. And then I think Louis had asked, like, was it Irina? And she goes, no. So it's like,
So at what point did you learn that 0 people in this cast were able to keep a secret?
I think instantly, very quickly, almost instantly.
It's like everyone snitched on you except for Lorenzo in this game.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I think Lorenzo and QT didn't. I don't think QT ever snitched on me, but she did. I think she did talk with Lorenzo about voting for me towards the end of the game.
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
but I think everyone saw I was a villain, and they were like, "Well, Trey's doing this, so let's get in on Trey." And then they were like, "Okay, let's work with Trey, and then let's backstab Trey, so we could get more votes on Trey and less votes on us." That was, oh my god, it's all so frustrating, man. It's so frustrating.
Oh, no, we're giving you PTSD now.
It's so frustrating to watch. That was really frustrating to watch. It's like see that all go down and then people still be mad at me. And it's like, oh my god.
Well, let's get to some more potential PTSD. Let's get to the challenge where you're in the hut and everybody is up in the tower and going to drop. Irina thought that she would have done better than you in the hut for this challenge. Do you think Irina would have done a better job than you?
I think so.
Whoa! Okay.
You think she really had her finger on the pulse of this group?
I think the choices between I think the premise of this is Irina would have done better in the hut because Irina was sort of the one that sabotaged on the planks a bit. I think I would have been a more level-headed person on the planks and talking about decision making. And I think the choice between myself, Louis, and Gabby for all of those questions is clearer than when Irina's thrown in the mix. So I don't think it's a consequence of her making better decisions about the group, but I think the choices are clearer. Like, who has the biggest ego out of the three of us? Probably Louis. Who's the most attractive? She'd probably say Louis. Like, it's not as clear cut.
She was a bit of a wild card up there.
Yeah.
Do you think that you were disrespectful to your fiance by picking Gabby as the most attractive?
Okay.
Wow, Trey. Wow.
Hard-hitting journalism coming. No, I don't think so. What's difficult about making choices up there is you're operating. They're trying to pick what I would guess, and I'm trying to pick things that I think they would guess about me. So I think I double bluffed myself, and I was thinking about picking Louis because I do think Louis is objectively the most attractive out of the three.
But you don't think Gabby's attractive?
No, I do.
So you think Gabby's ugly?
You're fucking me up, man. You're fucking me up.
You think Gabby's ugly?
What?
Wow. The serpent in a Pope's hat right now. Unbelievable.
In a Pope's hat. I think all three of them are objectively, conventionally attractive. I think this is so funny that I'm like being a politician about this. I picked Gabby because I thought they would think because I'm straight that I would pick a woman.
Yeah.
That was how I confused myself.
No, that's obviously what I mean. Like, they should have picked Gabby. I'm just saying you picked the right call. We're just giving you a hard time. It's ridiculous that they picked Louis because you had a girlfriend at the time. Who's not your fiance? It's ridiculous.
And I talked about her all the time. Yeah.
You also talked about Gabby having a boyfriend all the time. Were you very upset that Tony was hitting on Gabby even though she had a boyfriend?
I wasn't upset, but I was like trying to make sure that Tony. I was more so protecting Gabby. I was like, okay, Tony, you know this, right? And I was like, if he was gonna like make a move on Gabby or whatever, I wanted to make sure that it would be difficult for Tony to do that, or at least he would be thinking about it, you know? So like Gabby doesn't have to be forced into an uncomfortable situation with someone that's like 4 times her size, you know?
Well, we asked Tony about this. He was on the pod, and his explanation for all this was she told me that she didn't have a ring yet. And so that he took that as to mean that it was okay to pursue.
I don't.
And he still texts her every day.
What a Tony and a Gabby do behind closed doors, I could give a shit. That's so funny. They live in like the same area. I think they both live in like Miami Beach or.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know Gabby lived there too.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
wow.
some connection where they went to the same gym. Like they would go to the same gym in Miami.
Wow.
I don't know how true that is, but like they were like, yeah, I go to that gym too. I must have like seen you around at some point. So I thought that was, yeah.
The plot thickens. Damn. Okay, so we get the ice bath punishment, and afterwards you talk to Louie and Gabby and say, if the camp wants to get rid of Irina, let's get rid of her, and you go Survivor on her ass, and you propose a blindside. How do you feel about this whole thing after seeing the results?
I'm regrettable about not telling her before the wheel ceremony. I do feel regretful about that. I don't feel regretful about having blindsided her from like a game perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this also goes into sort of the like everybody, all of the dating show people and the realtors, they have a different version of what like reality shows are.
Yeah. Sorry, the realtors is really funny.
Well, I think the realtors on the show also had a different idea of what.
Yeah, right. So it's they view a lot of like the lying and the going behind people's backs as really unjust and gross and disgusting, and it hurts their feelings pretty bad. Whereas like when it happened to me later, it doesn't faze me. It's game. It hurts from like a game perspective, but I can sleep at night, you know? And like after the blind side, I slept pretty good. So I didn't really feel too bad about the action. I felt more bad about the reaction.
It's kind of a weird trend that we're seeing in reality TV lately, a little bit. Like in Traitors, when Suri was like berated at the end after winning, for deceiving people. It was like, what? Do you not know who this is? It's Suri. You know.
I think it's a new audience thing. So like, and also like they call them like ecosystem shows between Traitors, between this. And I think Netflix is a relatively new reality audience that isn't really used to this type of thing. And because they do so many new IPs and so many new shows, they don't have like an audience buildup of what is expected for what strategy looks like and what these games might look like. Whereas with Survivor, they have 20 years, 25 years of expectation about what the show looks like. And I don't know if you're watching 48, but 48 has sort of reverted to sort of a Netflix mentality where it's about doing good and being wholesome. And fans are upset about it, which is the complete flip-flop about what it looks like, what the fan reaction looks like for Battle Camp. So it's good on you for catching that. I agree. I very much agree.
It is an odd shift for sure. What's that, Max?
We cover The Circle, and the fan base for The Circle, not all the fan base, but a lot of the newer fans, you can tell, we usually call it like baby's first reality show, because the fan bases get so mad at the players for doing like nothing.
For just
like, I mean, it's through a screen, like they're not even talking to them in person, and they cyberbully these contestants for doing jack shit.
Straight up witch hunt. Yeah.
I think it's also this where it's like, I think Netflix does have a the Netflix stars that are in competition shows have a harder time, because you see a new Netflix show and it's like, oh, I need to like do laundry or cook or something just to turn on something mindless. Let me turn it on. You turn it on, you're listening to it, and all you hear is Trey's a monster, Trey's a snake, Trey sucks, Trey shouldn't be here. This other guy that was way more likable should be here. And you're not actually like watching and digesting the show. You're just hearing what people are saying. So I think it is this like sort of one-dimensional, two-dimensional way that we view these things, that Netflix, that the binge model and like the just turn on some show, some reality show to have some noise in the background. Like it fosters that sort of online behavior.
Are you getting a lot of flack? How are you holding up also with all that stuff?
How are you holding up?
No, that's like genuine, dude. People have to deal with like a lot of shit. It's terrible.
Yeah. You know, I have a really healthy relationship, not only with social media, but also with like fan engagement.
Yeah.
When I can really easily separate myself on screen to like my my character on screen versus self.
Yes.
So I am functionally Trey from Battle Camp's agent. So I manage his social media. I read all the comments. I tell him sometimes what is being said about him online, but I don't really take any of it to heart. Like the stuff that people say that's like, like Trey's a snake. I've gotten death threats quite a bit.
Yeah.
I've mainly like, you should be canceled. It's crazy. And it's just funny to me. And in the same way that like when people go in my comments and are like, hey, I love you. Like, I love you so much. Like, your character's inspiring or something like that from like Squid Game. I interact with those comments the same way I interact with the hate comments, because like, you love me. You don't really know me. You have this idea that I have a mom, and then that's where like my personality stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
You kind of put in a box there, aren't you?
Yeah. So I'm perfectly fine. I really do enjoy like seeing everybody's reaction and seeing people be emotional about how I played, because that means like I did my job. I was the villain of the season. I made you feel something, and you'll come back for me next time probably.
That's very healthy. That's super cool. So, what was your interaction like with Irina before she was voted out?
Meaning before the wheel, or
just in general? What were your interactions like with Irina?
Yeah, you know, Irina was good to talk to. She was genuinely good to talk to. I think part of what made her, I guess, like unlikable in the camp's eye was after our first win, she was like a little gloaty about the win to the other camp. And like, we don't have phones, we don't have social media. Like, all we do is talk shit about each other. So like, if you do something that is a little unlikable, or like just a slight personality flaw, like you're gonna get swarmed by the camp. So she was really perfectly fine. I really enjoyed talking with her. We had some really great conversations. But Polly had said something where it's like, I vibe with everyone except for Irina. And then we were all like, all right, well, I guess it's Irina.
Yeah.
That was sort of
did people's perceptions of her on Love Is Blind play any part into how they perceived her on this show?
It was never mentioned. I had seen her season of Love Is Blind, and also like having been on reality TV and seeing yourself on TV, you understand that that's like not the whole picture, you know? Yeah. Like even Chase's reputation is like this villain, this sort of like entertainer that will do anything for like a spot in the spotlight or whatever. And even he was not really like that all the time. So those types of things never quite played into how we view people.
Okay.
So Bree shows up Why were you such a cockblock, Trey? What? What are you guys
this
doing
is the
over
big
there?
question.
This is the big question.
What were you?
This is the big question.
Yeah, this is why we brought you on. Why were you such a cockblock?
Were you the designated RA for that cabin? Like what was happening?
Yeah, I was doing hourly checks, knocking on the door. No, they made it out to be so. I read a comment. Speaking of comments, I read a comment the other day. It was like Trey was probably watching in the middle of the night, and it's like, hey, what the hell, guys? What the hell?
I mean, they are from Too Hot to Handle, you know.
I was asleep. I was dead asleep during that whole thing.
Then why did you say what's happening over there? What happened in the middle of the night? Why were you?
Yeah, describe it in great detail.
Why are they're single? They didn't have relationships. Why were you so concerned this time?
Well, if they're fucking with me in the room, that's messed up.
It's reality TV. That didn't happen in Squid Game. There's so many people.
It's reality. You've already consented the second you signed the contract.
You're on reality TV, Trey.
Yeah. Oh, I should have read that clause. Oh,
yeah, you should have. Yep.
Oh, I should have read the clause. No, You're
getting in the way of true love.
I was probably. Oh man, maybe if it weren't for me, maybe they'd still be together.
They're not together?
Oh
no, certainly not.
But I thought it was
certainly not. What are you telling us?
Georgia said it was a true love story. I don't understand.
Yeah, we thought it was a real love story.
Yeah. No, you should. This is one specific instance where you shouldn't trust everything you see on TV, but every other, you should believe everything you see on TV from here on out, because it's all true. It's all true.
How long were they together for?
I think the hotel in Mexico after they got booted.
Yeah.
And then
I thought it was a real love story.
Terrible.
I don't think they're together anymore. Yeah.
The fairy tale bubble has exploded.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
So you guys lose the Mask the Misery challenge. Another challenge lost. How are you feeling at this point?
Oh, I was a little miffed because I felt like, the invisible chair thing?
Yeah.
That went on for it was 90 seconds. I had to do the invisible chair. So I do it, we stand up, and then somebody comes over and is like, hey, so one of you cheated. We have to do it again. So I had to hold an invisible chair for another 90 seconds. I think I would have fooled him after the first one, but I did.
How did they cheat?
How do you cheat?
So obviously the other three were given chairs, right? So someone, I don't know who, didn't actually sit in their chair. So the effort that they were putting in was actually like they were sitting in an invisible chair because their
that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Then they should have been disqualified.
Yeah. Oh, it sucked.
Wow.
Oh, man. I wish they had switched who it was at the very least, but having to do it twice was that was bad. But
snakes all over that cabin.
Wow.
We after we lose that, I'm obviously you can't win them all. But I can't oh yeah. And then
Gabby goes
home. Then Gabby goes home. That was the event of almost the season for everybody. It was
Did you cry when that happened? Did you cry?
No.
Why?
Did you break any doors off of hinges?
No.
I would have thought all the doors of all the cabins would have been broken off.
Tony just running around tossing them into the lake. No, if anybody was to cry, it would have been the Wolves. It would have been Louis and I. It would have been Louis Bree and I. I don't understand why anybody else would cry. She was so good at the competitions. I felt like she was really close to sort of to really getting involved in the social game and the voting and stuff like that, and what it meant to play like that. And she was taken from us too soon. And I was upset, but looking at everybody else getting so upset, I was like, do you guys not want to win? This is going to be the person that like screws you.
Huge win for the other cabins, you would think.
I know.
Yeah. I can't.
Taken too soon.
Taken too soon.
Rest in peace, Gabby.
R.I.P. Gabby. Okay, so Georgia goes on the Dick Vitale podcast, and she says that
yeah, baby.
She says that Tony got a good edit. Tony goes on the Reality Receipts podcast. He says that he kind of ripped the door off its hinges. Did you witness any of this?
Yeah. So I mean, I think I heard it. I didn't witness any of it, but I did hear it. I heard "You're a clown" that was pretty loud when he said "You're a clown" to Polly. And then it wasn't necessarily off its hinges. I'm trying to see if I have that version. You know, in like schools where there's that like box thing that has like that arm that connects to the door and it makes it close slower. He broke that. So he opened the door so hard and fast that like that whatever's in that box.
I see.
Yeah, which he's a big guy. Like, you know, I do think Tony got a good at it. Just overall, like they were really kind to them. The same way that I feel like they were kind to me, and the same way I think they were kind to Chase. In ways that they could have been more unkind in one way or another. But I think he just got it. I think he was entertaining for the first 4 episodes.
He's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Okay, but he didn't like actually break a door off its hinges, like the box broke. Okay.
Yeah. The door broke.
Okay,
he did break the door. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The story keeps unraveling. So how did you feel when Morgan came in to the cabin, to the team?
It was cool to hear that she was from Cheer. I think it became clear pretty quickly that like we were looking for a Gabby, and like she just wasn't Gabby. And Louie and I were like, we need to pick up the slack, and if we're gonna keep winning. And she's very athletic, and she was great at challenges, and she was great on the show. But like she just wasn't Gabby. She wasn't the competitor. She's not still competing in Cheer. And she self-admittedly says, like, I didn't have a strategy going into the show. And she said that to us, and we were like, all right, well, here goes for the Wolves. But I think she was really kind, and she was a great energy to have in the cabin. But it wasn't exactly what we were looking for at the time.
She seemed really unhappy. In all the shots,
she didn't smile
until she left.
She smiled.
Yeah. You know, I think she didn't. I don't think she quite expected exactly what the game was and what the show was. Like, it was hard. It's difficult. We are at 10,000 feet elevation. We don't have any access to any sort of support system. She's in an environment where she's immediately being compared to somebody. And also is thrown into this like intense game where everybody's yelling at each other and crying. And she doesn't like play these games or have any context for like what's going on. I understand her and her husband watch like a ton of these shows, and that was surprising to me because I was like, then
yeah,
play.
Yeah.
So.
How did you feel when Nick showed up? Because he shows up right after Morgan.
Yeah. So I had seen Nick's season of The Circle. I had seen Perfect Match. So like I sort of knew what I was going for. And also like that seemed to me like somebody that was coming in that was new that I could align with pretty closely. And I was excited to maybe align with him. But once again, the tide sort of shifted towards him in that very wheel ceremony. Where I think I had said to his face that I was voting for him, which was deeply unfortunate after going up to him and being like, yeah, I would love to play with you. I liked you on both of your seasons of Reality. And then I immediately vote for him. It seems to be a trend Why?
You had a lot of bad timing, a lot of bad luck in this game.
Yeah. It's really bad luck. It's also bad luck because it's like everybody gets their friends as they're coming in, and the one person that's from my show that I know is my sworn enemy. What are we doing? We got 4 circle people that are, and 2 of which are late additions, and they're all friends. QT and Kyle
they were tight.
Alliance. Nick and Shuby are really close, like in real life, or like real life friends. And Shuby and QT are on the same team. So I'm getting heated.
Yeah, Kyle and QT were very close.
Let it out.
Yep.
So
why are you so bad at cornhole? What is it about you?
I did underperform on that. I won't blame the edit because I did underperform.
Oh, you lot got my arsehole going here. Lorenzo, you throw like a dolphin.
Follow-up question: how is your mom at cornhole? She better than you at it?
She's so good at it. We would have block parties when I was growing up, and like when I was in college, and we would host like a cornhole tournament, and she would win every year. It's amazing. She's so good at it.
She should have been on this show.
I know. I also I think I do take responsibility because I'm a rock climber. I was rock climbing a lot before I came out to do battle camp, and my grip strength was in really great shape, which we saw at the end of the show, and for shot climbing and for the rope challenge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I should have gone up on that wall. I didn't really want to flex my strength that soon because everybody only saw me really as the smart guy when I did the puzzle. So I wanted to keep it that way because it seemed like the strong competitors were being targeted, and I didn't want the cerebral ones to be targeted too. And if I was shown as strong and cerebral, it would have been game over right there. But I feel like I could have outlasted anybody hanging on that. Like I could have hung from one of those things for like minutes, like a really long time.
Yeah, get slammed, mate.
Not happy with you. So you guys lose 3 challenges in a row. You're hanging on, and QT proposes an alliance between the Bears, you, and Louie, but then throws you into punishment.
It's a very short alliance.
Short. But then she tries to clean it up. Does she? Did they make any great effort to really smooth things over?
No, no. This was part of my spiraling. So we had lost the cornhole challenge. I get thrown into punishment after, like you said, after the alliance. They show this conversation that Avery comes into our cabin and talks with me, and I'm frustrated, and I'm like, what the hell? I thought we had something. Like you tell me we have an alliance and then you throw me into punishment. I don't want my name on the wheel. And she's like, we know you're going to win. And I'm like, well, I don't know that. I don't want to be put in a position where I have to win because this is work. And also, if I'm put in a position where I have to win, I then have to show my strength, which I do not want to do, like I just said. And nobody made a convincing argument about why they put me in for punishment other than we thought you were going to win, which is similar to Shuby's mentality of voting for Chase over and over, where he just would go, oh, I know you're not going to get eliminated. Chase, I knew it wasn't going to hit you. It wasn't going to hit you. So I hated that. Oh man. And then losing that challenge, that the punishment was also criminal for my game. I think I can trace back talking to Polly about voting for Louie to the loss of that punishment. I was so sick of losing, and I felt like the writing was on the wall for my elimination coming up pretty soon, that I felt it necessary to take the game into my own hands without the rest of the cabin.
Knowing how things worked out, how do you feel about telling Polly to vote for Louie instead of you in retrospect?
So I've done a lot of reflecting on this. When I saw the votes pop up on the wheel, I made sure to keep track of them. And one of the votes is the slice that sent Louis home. So I think very personally, had I not talked to Polly, my game would have been done right there. I would have been a blip on the map. It would have been like, oh no, Trey's gone. He was such a good person or whatever. And I would have been inconsequential to the season. And I am not only happy with how long I lasted after that, I'm not only happy with how I got to play after that, despite the suffering. I felt like I got to play the game I wanted to play, which was this sort of maneuvery, social strategy, challenge, needing to win challenges type of game. But I also felt like it had a positive impact on the entertainment of the entire season. I don't know how much drama, how much, we could all woulda, coulda, shoulda about what happens if somebody steps on a butterfly while Taylor Lewan is talking. But I think this was the storyline of the season that just
But having said all that, how do you sleep at night?
Yeah.
For like completely backstabbing your best buddy in the whole world.
We know that you sleep in a coil though, like a snake.
Yeah.
No, I sleep next to my enemies in one long line to make sure I can chow down.
Did you ever talk to Louis after this? Was he absolutely heartbroken?
Yeah.
Was your friendship irreparable? What happened there?
I think it's different. I think here's also the issue is because I lasted so long, I couldn't get ahead of it, and truthfully tell what happened. What Louis heard first is when Louis got eliminated, he was like, the way the cookie crumbles, got by Polly. The next wheel ceremony, Avery and Gio get eliminated, who are really upset with me, and immediately go to make a group chat with everybody who's been eliminated so far, and immediately tell the group chat how awful I am. Instantly.
Wow.
How is that snake still in?
Avery was on a quest.
What Trey to get eliminated type stuff. So, and this is like all very emotional, all very like, and they're not wrong, right? It's just like the editorialized version of them expressing how they feel and expressing what happened. So Louis instantly has this taste of, it's like, oh, Trey told Polly explicitly, get rid of Louis stat, get him out of this game right now, which is not what happened. And you could see that also, like, Gio and Avery were spiraling in that episode about like what actually went down. They every single time they retold the story, it was Trey was given the choice between Polly and Trey and Louis, and he chose himself. He begged Louis. He begged Polly to vote for Louis. He practically voted for Louis himself. Like these were the types of things that Avery and Gio were talking about, and that's what Louis heard. So when I'm talking with Louis for the first time after all of this is over, it's through that lens. And like, what are you supposed to say to someone who for like, I think at this point, like 2 weeks has only heard about me as someone that was the sole architect of his elimination? Like, so I just apologized. I was like, I'm sorry that happened. Game is game. He responded back kindly. He's like, I understand. He's a competitor himself. I didn't think he realized like that was possible. Like I could have possibly done that.
Yeah.
But everything's smoothed over now. Him seeing like the show, I think gave him a bit of context. He's still like, I think he's still of the opinion that like I snaked him, so to speak, which I, in a word, yeah, I did. But like, I think we probably would have had a great friendship of us liking each other's Instagram stories after the show had this not happened. But because it happened, I don't think our friendship is any different. I think he lives in London, I live in Chicago. I barely make it out to LA or New York. We're not going to see each other in person much, but our digital friendship is cordial. It's very nice.
So do you think that he would have snaked you if he had been more aware of like how these games work?
No, I don't. If he knew that was an option, I don't think he would have done that. I also don't think he would have.
He's not a big gamer.
Yeah, I have heard a video
like
of
on his Too Hot to Handle seasons, he didn't even care about the rules. he was like
but that's kind of gamey in a way because he's like taking money away from. He's like oh I fucked up.
Yeah, tonight. But he didn't care about that though. He just wanted to get laid over.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah,
I fucked all your money away again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he would have done the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hypothetical. So I had a question. At one point, you're talking to Louis, and you say the decimated teams, someone always makes it to the end. In what season of Battle Camp did that happen? Where the decimated teams always make it to the end?
Don't do this to me now. I gotta mention it.
So what? So do you watch a lot of competition television? Is that
I do?
Yeah. What are your favorite shows? What inspired you?
My favorite and my inspiration for all reality TV is Survivor. I'm a huge Survivor fan. So when I'm talking about like the decimated team, somebody
we talked about that. Where like he's talking about Survivor. Yeah,
like Palau. I'm like Philippines. Like it's those types of seasons where I'm like, what? There's always one person. There's always
four.
Yeah.
Cool. Did you watch Australian Survivor?
I've only seen 2017. I've not seen any other season.
Ooh.
The scene where
2017.
It was Jericho, I think, was the winner.
Oh yeah. That one's really good. Yeah.
It's like Luke is comes in third or something like that. Yeah, I love that season.
So
it gets even better.
It's It's so good.
Australian Survivor is the best Survivor.
It's better than
so
New
good.
Yeah,
it's so good.
So at the next wheel spin, you vote for Nick. You receive 0 votes. Polly votes for Louis. Oh, we talked about Louis and Bree going home. Were you surprised how quickly Polly snitched on you? Because she snitches so quickly,
really easily. Yeah.
Yes, I think I just didn't take into account that her and Gio are such good friends. Like I knew they were such good friends, but I think what I didn't realize is like they would be having those types of game conversations where like they can't fathom somebody playing to win. You know, I was a little shocked that she immediately went to someone, especially after I told her that I would do her a solid. You know, like she was going to do something for me, and there's the tacit implication that I would do something for her, and I feel like that would be something I would want to keep secret if that happened to me. Just because like especially because we had a really good relationship like going up to that. And I was shocked that she was going to vote for me in the first place. Because I felt like we were talking a lot. We were having great conversations. I was really getting to know her and her work. And I felt like she was getting to know about my life too. So that was surprising and frustrating. Not only seeing it like on TV for the first time, how it actually happened, but hearing about how word got out.
And she talks in confessionals about how like she does want to work with you. So that's why she did do your plan. So it's weird that then she would snitch on you because that kind of breaks.
I don't think did she see it as snitching though? Or like,
and that's the other question where it's like, how did she perceive? I don't know how she perceived what she did. I think she just perceived it as she said it to Gio and it got out of control.
Yeah. Like
she didn't realize
you didn't say like, we need to keep it secret, you know?
Right. Yeah, I didn't be like put this on the DL. Yeah, I didn't have to. That's a pretty like intimate and secret, like encrypted conversation that you're having with somebody when you're talking about that.
So you end up on a new team. You end up on the red team, the Red Eagles. How did you feel about this new team that you ended up on at first?
I was just so lucky to have Chase as a captain. I mean, like,
QB1.
I was actually quite upset with how the teams shook out. I didn't want it to be like carbon copy Eagles in this cabin plus one person from the Wolves and the captain, and then vice versa. I was quite upset with that.
QT was too in our interview with her. She was really pissed about that
because I felt like it. When you think of like a tribe swap in Survivor, it is the perfect opportunity for those who are on the outskirts to forge new relationships. And I not only found myself with the team that probably has it out for me the worst. Like I voted for, at that point, 2 people in there. And then the captain coming in is Louis' real life, really good friend. So he hears about me being the person that caused his really good friend to go home before he could see him. And he's like, okay, let's kill that guy. You guys want to kill that guy? And then that's how sort of this rivalry began.
That adds context. I didn't get that him and Louis were such good friends.
Yeah,
I just thought that he just didn't like you and was just looking for excuses to like totally pile on. Okay, so him and Louis were friends. Okay.
Yeah. I think he also didn't like that I was like, and this is like psychologizing and like assuming about his personality and his motives and whatever, but I don't know if he liked that I was successful about how competitive I was.
Mm-hmm.
Like how I was doing so well at challenges, and maybe he was underperforming a little bit when he's the professional athlete of the two.
Yeah, there's standards with professional athletes.
Yeah, and how I did something so dastardly in the game, yet still, at time and time again, was surviving. I think he took issue with how successful my strategy was, despite it conflicting with what he perceived his strategy would be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you call yourself the Spelling King, and you called yourself the Spelling King on the show. I wrote this down. All my notes are correct. You call yourself the Spelling King. You said it, not me. And you spell wholesome right. Very impressive. These were very hard words on the show. Very good.
Thank you.
Now, QT, did you think that she threw the challenge when it happened? What did you think when she spelled advantage wrong?
When it happened, I was like, that's weird. Like I was kind of shocked because I knew she was a reader. I knew she was she had like a book Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
So like that was surprising. But my fiance is also a pretty avid reader, and she also has trouble spelling. So I was like, okay, those two things could happen. She's in a stressful environment. She's sort of in a do or die position. I can get if she did it like by accident. But when I talked to her and she said she didn't throw it, I just believed her. I was like, yeah, totally. Because we were good allies too. QT and I were really close. So I was like, oh, she didn't throw it. Also, if she's throwing challenges, I would probably want to keep her, Like it's like, thank you for helping us win that challenge.
Yeah.
So she would have it would be in her best interest to tell me that she threw that. So I believed her.
Also, when you thought about it, didn't throwing challenges make absolutely no fucking sense?
Yeah.
Because you not want your name to be on the wheel?
Yes.
Throwing challenges in this game doesn't make sense.
As you experienced when Kyle.
Yeah, as you added up to you later. But yeah, why would you throw a challenge?
Yeah. If you throw a challenge and you're obvious about it, everyone's going to vote for you. The teams can vote for themselves. So it's like, it
there's
just
literally no reason.
There's no reason.
No. Yeah. So stupid. Yeah.
So at the next wheel spin, the one where Avery and Gio go home, you receive 3 votes, and Gio and Avery own up to it and say that Louis should be there. What did you think about Avery's whole code of morality and her hypocrisy around you and QT and this whole thing?
Yeah, I think Avery's gameplay was seen through a lens of morality, right? Of doing what was supposedly right and just within the game. So when she started playing, that's when the hypocrisy comes up. And I think her mistake is not being hypocritical, but it's framing that you can do things in a zero-sum game that are objectively moral, or morally correct.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't. It's obviously very frustrating to have to like stand in front of the wheel, have people behind you saying things, and you can't turn around and like speak to them face to face, and they're saying things that are like damning to your character and being like your true colors are showing. Like that type of thing is very frustrating. But it's also very frustrating that my one like out for that conversation is being like, Polly voted for Louis. Gio, your friend voted for Louis, not me.
Yeah.
And I can't say that, not only because I still view her as an ally at this point, and secondly, that's Gio's good friend who he's known for a really long time. And who am I to say something about his really good friends and the real life implications of that?
Right.
So
are you not allowed? You mentioned you're not allowed to turn around and say stuff. Is that just from a social standpoint, or are you talking more like production wise?
It's a production
because they had a camera on your face and they didn't have it from the other end. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
How are you you were very good at like taking shit from everyone. And I think you talked about this earlier, that you're really good at turning stuff like this off. Like, do you know how you got so good at this, or like what exactly your strategy is? Because you were really under fire for a lot of this game, and it really stood out. Like how, like I feel like I would like freak out being in that cabin or being at these ceremonies. Like,
yeah.
How did you do it?
It's awkward. It's awkward for sure. I mean, I was upset a lot. Like there were mornings where I like sat by the campfire and I wept because I felt I didn't feel like I had anybody to really talk to and I could really trust and like lean on the way that everybody else had. It felt like people weren't really speaking to me in the same way they were speaking to other people, and that was really frustrating. So the feeling of being left out was real. But part of what like cuts that, especially on a reality show, is if I'm suffering, chances are that's making fantastic television. Like if I'm not having a good time, that's a complex character moment. If I can get that Emmy water flowing, then we're in good shape. So I can have those moments and truly feel upset and unhappy, but it's all in this surreal environment in such like a beautiful place, and you're making a TV show that is like part of what is your dream, and you can't help but feel grateful, and that just cuts all those feelings a bit. Now, in terms of talking with people and having people yell at you, and then you have to respond to them when everybody agrees with the person that's yelling at you for the most part, it's just about like, I think it's mostly about staying consistent with like your values and what you were trying to do. Because chances are if somebody has a problem with you, they are having an emotional reaction to what you've done. And everything that I have done action wise has not really been, has maybe started from an emotional place, but has been thought through logically. So I am pretty good at like stating my case and arguing and knowing how not to step on toes and how to like articulate how I'm feeling. And that's, I think, where other people mess up and trip up, and they result to like, I'm choosing peace instead of violence today, and saying stuff like that and getting a little in your face about stuff.
Yeah.
So, and that's where like I feel victory and comfortable. I personally have no clue why I'm good at arguing. I feel like when I was watching it, I felt like crying myself, like in that moment. But I don't. It's just the adrenaline gets in you, and camera's on. You got to go.
You handled it well, I thought. Yeah,
I thought so too. I thought in those moments I stuck up for myself. I think it went pretty well.
It was a situation too where it was, just let her talk, and she's digging her own grave, in my opinion, in terms of the perception that I feel like people who enjoy the gaming aspect are watching. We're seeing her sort of true colors there.
Yeah.
So,
and I think she did misstep in terms of what she was doing, especially because I mean, it does look particularly egregious when the stuff that she's saying about me is happening in the very same round with the stuff that she's saying about QT. Like it does look really bad from that standpoint, but I see where like what she was. I see where she's coming from in terms of her argument for sure.
It was like after this. Like, what was it like going into the cabin? that night and those other nights, like in general? What were these cabin nights
Every
like?
night.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's really after the wheel and after we vote and like when we do game stuff that like those conversations get really heated. But like otherwise, it's very cordial and fine. We're telling stories about our previous shows. But like immediately after that wheel that I got yelled at, they sat me down and they were like, "Explain yourself." And once again, Polly is sitting in the room. So like what am I supposed to say? Like Polly's actually the one that did this. Like in the conversation with Polly, I could bring up and rehash the conversation that we had, but it's been spun so many times by Polly that she's almost like told herself a different truth about what happened. And if she feels like it happened one way, I can't really argue with how she's feeling. So, oh man, Chase was also like really doing like investigative work in that moment because he had just got there and he was trying to figure out what was going on. He did ask like, was what Avery was saying true? And I was like, there was some truth to it, but I didn't beg. And I think I asked Polly, I was like, Polly, did I beg to you? And she was like, no, you didn't. And even stuff like that, once it starts spinning around camp, it's hard to stop. And also like when your back is against the wall and there are people who believe you to be this horrible snake and liar who's untrustworthy and a loose cannon, it's impossible to reason with people.
Yeah.
How different do you think your experience would have been if you had ended up in the Bears cabin, like with QT and Shuby?
I think it would have been. I think they would have targeted me, the Eagles, pretty quick, but I think we would have won almost every challenge. This is cocky. This is the ego coming out. I felt like I was responsible for most of the Eagles' wins. I felt like there was really good people on both teams, but the X factor was myself.
Well, I mean, definitely in the slingshot competition, and you did really well on the shot climbing competition, so that was a big part of it.
And if I was on the Bears, I would have gone twice for shot climbing. If I would have won the spelling bee, probably. What they didn't show is shot climbing and the spelling bee had tiebreakers.
They did show the tiebreaker for shot climbing.
Oh, they did. Mm-hmm. Oh, right, because I got mad, which was difficult to watch. Me getting upset about that was very difficult to watch. But the spelling bee had a tiebreaker, and it was me versus Gio, and I just washed him.
You're the spelling king, so of
This
course.
is what I'm saying.
The spelling peasant.
That.
Yeah, I think the sad thing about like everyone kind of like labeling you as a snake and stuff is that it benefits everyone kind of strategically, even if they don't notice it, right? It's like, of course, they're going to keep labeling you a snake because then it's not them, right? And the longer you stay in the game, the longer it's like, well, we have to keep him as the person, you know. And then
it kind of reminded me of Cochran from his first season of Survivor.
Yeah.
When he made that flip after being on the bottom of his 6, and then just the way everyone berated him over and over and over again. And even that got to a point where the people that he jumped ship with were starting to view him with a stigma as well. So it's like once the name just keeps coming out over and over and over again, it's hard to get that out of there and out of people's minds.
Yeah. And something Lorenzo helped me with was just lean into it. So I was like, well, if I'm a snake in their minds, I'll hang out in the Bears cabin. Then I'll go back to the Eagles cabin. Then I'll go back to the Bears cabin, like that sort of thing.
So Kyle, he gets this move of you voting with the Bears, which makes sense. But then he does this little flip where then he tries to like put Chase against you. He makes it kind of like convoluted. What did you think about all of this? Because we had QT on yesterday, and she instantly rolled her eyes.
Kyle was doing a lot, and he was doing a lot for being a newcomer, and he was in a tough situation. So I get it. What he was trying to do in terms of me throwing the challenge is this sort of like presumptive, let's not give Trey a chance to defend himself type stuff and just like set him up for failure type thing that happened to me most of the back half of the game. like him asking me to throw the challenge, I was like, in that moment, I was like, that's insane. I didn't say that, but I think in my head, I was like, that's insane and stupid. I won't do that. That puts my name on the wheel. And then what wasn't shown is I told everybody that Kyle was trying to tell people that I was going to throw the challenge, which I don't think was happening. I had told like all of the Eagles, like Kyle's been telling people that I'm going to throw the challenge. I'm not throwing the challenge. And I almost didn't get a chance to prove myself because they weren't keep putting me anywhere near the challenge. And part of the reason why I wasn't put up for shot climbing, I found out later, was because they thought I was going to throw that too, which is like so stupid. Like literally painting me out to be a villain just for fun, before I even get a chance to say something.
When you say they, are you just saying Chase, or was Lorenzo and Georgia like in on those too?
I think Chase took the role of captain very seriously.
Okay.
He took the role of being a leader extremely seriously. I don't know how, I truthfully don't know how serious he was about it, if he was doing it just for the show, but it pissed me off. There's nothing I hate more than somebody new coming in and being like, I have all the power. And then everybody being like, yes, you have all the power. I take issue with that. I also take issue with people in power positions just generally. That's neither here nor there. So I think it stemmed from Chase, but it was conversations that I knew were being had throughout the camp.
I think there's something else you hate more.
There's nothing I hate more than watching strong, conventionally attractive men laugh about being in power.
Is it the being in power or the laughing about being in power that you hate more? Because we're getting conflicting information here.
I think it's laughing about being in power is like,
that's worse.
Who is going home next? Who's next up at the guillotine? Like that sort of thing.
What about this moment here? So Kyle and Chase, they're talking, and they're clearly talking about you. They call over Shuby. They're clearly talking about you. Shuby comes back and he lies to you. You say in his Shuby way. Did we miss anything here, or was it usually shown like it happened?
It's almost verbatim. I did sneak over to the pavilion and eavesdrop on their conversation after Shuby went into the cabin. I jumped over like the gravel so they wouldn't hear me. I tiptoed on the grass and I listened. I put my ear up to the pavilion. But Shuby would frequently, like he did with this with Polly too, and he did this a few other rounds that he knew I was catching votes. He would go, I would go, Shuby, am I okay? And he'd go, I think if you just have a conversation with Kyle and see if you can smooth things over, but I think you're fine. And he would say that. And that's like, okay, this is bad.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting style of gameplay. I kind of like it.
Yeah. It was crazy to see, because I was like, Shuby, they're really close allies. You can tell me anything and I won't rat you out. And he's like, it's not for me to say. It's not for me to say.
That was one of the most entertaining scenes I think we had all season. It was really, really funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I like. I couldn't believe it made it in, because I'm like, Shuby, tell me if it's not important. Tell me what it is.
Well, yeah, because you read him like a book. Like you knew something was off for sure.
Yeah.
So we get to the next vote. Your whole team, including Chase, agrees to vote for Kyle, but then when it comes time for the wheel, you get 2 votes, and it turns out that Chase voted for you, and he says he would never betray his friend. Yeah, what was this like, this whole fiasco here?
So I think like I took a lot of heat at the wheel, right? And I was put on the spot a lot at the wheel. For me, there were a ton of surprises at the wheel every time I went. For some reason, Chase was like basically non-responsive at the wheel when we were standing next to each other and he voted for me. he went into his shell, and I expected big talk. I expected like a reasoning. I expected something, but nothing came of it. It was like you're talking this big game about how I'm like this feat that this person that's larger than life that needs to be slain, and you can't even like say to me like why you voted for me. It was giving ashamed. He was ashamed of what he did, and in that moment, I think the reason why he was so frustrated later, I think because he sort of realized that what he did was at least a little similar to what I did. And it was frustrating to me at breakfast that he still was leaning away from that realization.
Maybe acting out a little about acting out his insecurities a little bit over that vote. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
I think compensating.
I mean, it was sort of we all deal with things differently. I took a big swing the previous vote when Morgan went home, and it didn't work out for me, and I was really upset. And not only because one of my allies went home, but also because stuff didn't go my way. Stuff didn't go his way this time, and he lashed out. He isolated himself, and he blamed everybody. So it's like I don't know at that point. I don't know what to say to someone who's so dug into what his own like personal truth is about the situation.
Was what happened with Chase at breakfast more intense than what we saw on the show?
Yeah.
The whole vibe just seemed like it was more intense. Can you talk about it all? You don't have to if you don't want to.
The stuff that was cut is he got a little in my face. So he sat down next to me, but he certainly got in my face a little bit when he was talking to me about for the stuff that was cut out, which like for a guy like me who's 6 foot 160, like a 6'2", like 220 guy coming at you, it's a little intimidating. It's a little scary, and it's something similar to like with Tony, like when Tony is like yelling at people and Tony was like ripping doors off hinges. He didn't do it. He didn't rip doors off hinges, but when he's doing that, it's a little scary. He doesn't.
Something was unhinged, that's for sure.
But he doesn't have the privilege to express how he's feeling the way he actually needs to express it. He can't like get aggro because it reads a certain way for dudes that are bigger. So I think it was generous to Chase the breakfast, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember like afterwards you're like, I really wasn't comfortable with the way that like breakfast went down. And I was like, I think something like went down here, something.
Yeah. And I remember that conversation with Georgia, and Georgia also like she put it into perspective for me in that conversation that was also not shown, where she was like, I've known Chase for a really long time. You don't have anything to be worried about. Like he's just upset. Nothing's going to happen. It'll be fine. He'll smooth it over tomorrow.
Well, let's get to the nighttime challenge. Why did you go for the flint and the steel?
Because I wanted to be cool.
That's what QT said.
I wanted to be cool.
Watchers, man.
Yeah, I'd say the Survivor head is showing.
Had you ever used flint and steel before?
Yes.
Okay.
A while ago, maybe like 10 years prior. So I had successfully started a fire with flint and steel when I was like started applying for reality shows. I started applying for Survivor when I was 18, and I was like, I need to learn how to make fire because that's what the people are doing, So I went for it, expecting to have that same skill 10 years later without having practicing. I also misinterpreted how much time would be an advantage because like I thought having like 2 minutes to really get my bearings with the flint and steel would have been enough, but nothing outpaces a match,
Yeah.
So
we have this comment from Lady Entree. Trey, we need you on season 3 of House of Villains. Would you ever go on House of Villains?
Yeah, I would go on House of Villains. I feel like
I'm just picturing you in New York going at it, screaming at each other.
I feel like my brand of villainy is people are mad at me. So if that's what they need, if they need a punching bag, I'm more than happy to be a punching bag. I think I could run circles around them out there.
But you're good at hanging from ropes. I don't think we need to address this. In an attempt to save yourself, you try to get Chase to vote for someone else, and you'll say that you'll also not vote for Chase. What % confidence did you have that this would work, this last-ditch effort?
So Chase had came to me with this. And he was like, let's chat. Let's work this out. And when he brought this up, I was like, okay, I wasn't planning on voting for him anyway, sincerely. I didn't know if I could trust him. And I was like, do I weigh the ability to trust him in this vote? Or do I vote what's in my best interest moving forward? And I sort of had I can't remember if we told or if I was like, I'm feeling like this is the final elimination coming up, or because it was a double spin. It felt like we were winding down. Like the vibe around the whole set was like, okay, we're coming to a rousing conclusion now. So I looked at Nick had beat me in challenges before. Chase hadn't scored a point for a really long time for our team. So I was like, I could probably beat him in most of these challenges. I felt good about my odds of, I was going to try and get everybody's vote at the end if it came down to it. I was already telling people there would be some jury aspect of voting. And I was like, take me. They hate me. But I didn't really, the conversation was more a pleasant surprise than anything, because I was like, okay, he's not going to vote for me. That's fantastic. That's great. That's great news. So it was really inconsequential at the end of the day.
So what % confidence? Number? What number? What % did you think that he wouldn't vote for you? Just
immediately after the conversation, I was like, I'm about 75%.
Okay.
Then I saw him immediately pull aside Nick and take him, and I was like, it's probably not happening.
Yeah. So it's a double elimination. Nick is eliminated, and then it's you. QT said you were completely blindsided.
Yeah.
You were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I had no clue. That entire QT did a fantastic job settling my nerves, because she was doing such a great job entertaining me, and we were all entertaining ourselves in the Bears cabin. It was just me, Shuby, and QT in there, and we were chatting, we were laughing, we were having a great time. I was like, I wish the whole game was like this. This would have been awesome. And then I went to the wheel, and Shuby and QT had told me that they were voting for Chase. And I was like, okay, great. That sounds fantastic. And when I got to the wheel and I saw that there was only one vote for Chase, I turned over to look at QT, and QT did not look back at me. QT stoically looked forward. And that was when I realized that something was afoot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trey, I'm not sure if you mentioned this on the show. Was Battle Camp the greatest pleasure of your life?
At that point, immediately after, yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. Watching it back, it's like, okay, brother, you're being dramatic. Being a bit dramatic. Now the greatest pleasure of my life was my proposal to my fiance, which is fantastic. But
congratulations.
This is how we celebrate things on our pod. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just fun. It was so much fun, despite all the suffering, it was a blast.
Yes.
Despite all the suffering. It was a blast. That's the title of your memoirs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Trey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
People want to know, what is up with you now? What's next for Trey?
Oh, man. I'm planning a wedding. So things, anything that's on my plate is taking a back burner to that. But I'm trying to host a reality gaming event with my good friend Quinn Martin, who was on Big Brother 26, I believe.
Oh, we love Quinn.
Yeah, we love Quinn. And we're hosting an event. It's going to be in Nebraska. We're trying to get a bunch of reality folk involved. We're going to live stream it. We're going to try to push some content out on it. It's been something I've really wanted to do, and it was awesome to hear that he really wanted to do it too. It's in the early stages of planning, so there's nothing concrete yet, but we're aiming for like a late July type launch for it.
Does Quinn live in Nebraska? Is that why it's in Nebraska?
Quinn went to school in Nebraska, and we have a venue that he knows well. So
awesome.
Okay.
Very cool. Yes.
That's exciting.
Well, where can people find you on the internet so that they can say that they love you and that they love snakes?
People can find me in Corey Wartenberger's Twitch chat. They can also find me. They can find me on Twitch at Choo Choo Train. You can find me on Instagram at Choo Choo Train, on Twitter at Choo Choo Train, and you can find me on TikTok at Trey Plutnicki. If you want to hear reality takes, stupid jokes, and terrible, and actually a bunch of Chicago-themed papacy tweets.
Okay. Good.
Do we think if did the Pope hit at the batting cages at Sluggers in Wrigleyville?
It's a hot topic right now.
People want to know.
Yeah. Does he like Malort? We need to know.
These are the things we need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will he sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" in a future game?
Does he know Go Cubs Go?
Yep.
Yeah. That's right.
Could you imagine with the Pope hat and everything?
Yes. Him up and like addressing the square and him going "Go Cubs Go." Like that's fantastic.
Well, we will be back next week interviewing Shoebomb, and we might have some other interviews lined up. Yes, Trey, we're just interviewing all your friends. We've had QT.
Yeah,
it's
great. I love it.
Yeah, we've had Nick on here before. Yeah, well, we will tell Shuby hello. And thanks again for joining us.
Yes, it's been our greatest pleasure.
This has been the greatest pleasure of our life.
Interview you.
Yes.
The greatest of our lives.
And now the greatest pleasure of my life. Thank you.
Oh my God.
Wow. Thank you.
Bye. It's the place you go when you finish your show. We're your two best friends. Our names are Max and Ben. We're self-proclaimed television experts. It's Reality Alert.